So we have some new rules. I gotta download a picture of it so I can pull it up on the screen. I'll do that in a little bit. We're gonna have a debate tonight between Samsquanch, Rob, and Andrew. As always, Brittany and Todd are here with me. We had somebody reach out to us on our politically provoked page, and they said that they were going to plug our YouTube channel on their site. And they just said, "Hey, if you don't mind, if you could just give us a quick mention." I said, "Of course." So if you're over on the YouTube channel and you see some new people commenting, they're coming from that site, and the site is liberalform.org. And I know a lot of people, in political debate room, we all like to do the debates via text, and that's exactly what it is. It's a forum where you can go on. It's unfiltered, raw. A lot of people are complaining these days about the censorship and everything. Well, this is an area where it's not censored unless there's a threat of some sort. It's completely open. You're not going to get flagged for anything if you're just like saying a word and you're worried about that getting flagged and going to Facebook jail. You don't have to worry about that there. So yeah, definitely go check it out. It's liberalform.org. I have the website right there. I'll leave it up there for a minute. Before we get into the topics, I just want everybody to go around the room and say hi. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, guys.
Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. How's everyone this fine Sunday?
Doing pretty good. Rob, you came on, you volunteered to debate Andrew. What is your goal with this debate?
I think it's an important conversation to have always. I think if we can stop it from devolving into, you're a racist and, ad hom attacks, I think maybe we can get somewhere. I think we'll be shocked to find some points of agreement, and I think we'll find some contentious points of disagreement. And my goal is always conversation. So I'm not here for to throw jabs and write crosses. We're going to try to discuss some of this.
Cool. Andrew, how are you doing? And what do you hope to get out of this debate tonight? I think you're muted.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I haven't engaged with that many Sanders supporters. From my perspective, the ones that I do know who are actually in my family are pretty extreme Sanders supporters. They're the revolutionary AK above their head Che Guevara t-shirt wearing Sanders supporters. So I do engage with them quite a bit. I thought that this would be a fun debate to have, maybe a little lively. I don't really like to censor myself too much, call spade a spade. So I think we can have a lot of fun with this particular debate.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good one. Your topics are definitely interesting, and I'm interested to see how that kind of develops over the night. So we'll just get right to it. We'll start with Rob's topic, which was wait a second. It was the spiritual and existential crisis facing America. And if you don't mind, Rob, if you could just talk about why you picked that topic, and then we'll get into it.
Sure, because it's pretty obvious in the events the last month that we are facing a crisis. I've heard it talked about in several of Andrew's debates. He approaches it a little differently than I do, but we have a crisis of spirituality. Our social connections are being seeped into by things like social media, and I think we're losing our way. We've lost sight of concepts of the commons and of common goals. And I believe that crisis has, like I said, tech companies have a lot to do with it, and the decoupling of meaning from work and from different things. I think we just have a crisis of meaning in this country. So I think it'll be an interesting topic to discuss.
Thank you. So Andrew, I feel like you and Rob might be similarly aligned with your beliefs on that. If you just want to add anything to what he just said.
Well, no, I don't think that we are. I find that the social crisis that we're in, and with what he calls a spiritual and existential crisis, and maybe he'll expand on that when I'm done, but I find that the left is the one who has broken down the social paradigms of normalcy in the United States. And Bernie Sanders and his supporters are definitely on the left, probably further left with many of their policies than typical Democrats are, or what we would consider modern day progressives.
Okay.
Could you expand on that? How the left is driving that? How is the left driving and normalcy? I think that's subjective.
We used to have social normalcy. Well, that's the whole problem, right? The whole problem is that you think it's subjective. Because you think it's subjective, we're left with tons and tons and tons of outliers. And those outliers band together and they end up getting political power. Okay? And then you end up with the infighting that comes afterwards, which creates a huge nightmare in and of itself. But because we have abolished social normalcy, meaning, for instance, the nuclear family, we haven't done anything to reduce abortions. They've been increased in the African American community, at the very least. They've been massively increased since inception, and basically the social norms have broken down, and that's pretty much been 100% caused by the progressive ideology.
How so?
Well, I just gave you two examples, but if you want me to expand out from that, just take a look currently at the lockdowns that we have. That's completely un-American. It's about the most un-American thing I could ever think of. And that's pretty much 100% pushed by the progressive left. And the Sanders supporters seem to get behind it. Another form of social normalcy is the push for UBI, the universal basic income. That is another very, very un-American trait that I see pushed from the Sanders supporters. The list is kind of never ending with how much in regards to the social normalcy that we've had since our foundations that has been uprooted since roughly the 1960s, all pushed by progressive leftists.
Okay, so first on the lockdowns, those were primarily left to states, correct? So states made a decision whether or not, right? And all 50 states instituted some form or another of lockdown, correct?
No.
Which ones stayed completely wide open?
I don't know. I'd have to look, but some of them did.
Right. Because I live, and the reason I figured everyone did, I live in the most conservative state in the union, and we entered a sort of lockdown. If that was left up to the states, and there are a majority of conservative governors in states, I find that a little bit hard to pin that on the left.
Why?
Well, for exactly that reason I just described.
Yeah, but states aren't allowed to go against the federal constitution. That's why we have a federal constitution. The states aren't allowed to do that, and it's only being done in progressive states for the most part. That's where you see the hard crackdowns. Michigan, New York, areas like this. That's where you see the really heavy crackdowns, and it's unconstitutional, and it's pushed by the progressive left.
So the issue isn't the crackdowns; it's the degree of such, right?
No, it's not.
Because every state instituted a degree of crackdown.
No, I don't think every state did institute a degree of crackdown.
Can we look at that? Do we have somebody who has that?
At least South Dakota was left open. Governor,
I think South Dakota, yeah.
South Dakota
so again,
was the one state that
what you have is you have states that have followed the Constitution. You have states that haven't followed the Constitution. And
so you have one state that followed the Constitution.
I don't believe that no, even the states that, if you say, you got to expand on that. What do you mean by moderate crackdown? Like they say you got to wear a mask to walk into a place? Is that what you mean?
Sure. Well, that yeah, sure. I mean, if they're not completely closing down,
I don't think it's a crackdown to tell your population, please do this. It's different when there's a use of force behind it, when there's a mandate for doing it. And I don't think all the states mandated stay-at-home orders and things like this. I don't think that they did. So
various degrees of which is my point. When you have 50 states, you have the majority of governors who are Republican. The stay-at-home orders by Trump were pretty well left to the states. We can agree on that. Republican governors, Republican secretary, their appointed secretaries of health made these decisions. Everybody made these decisions in unison. It wasn't necessarily a left-right thing. It was the government doing what they try, doing what they do.
What do you mean it wasn't a left-right thing? It's completely left. It's completely a left-right thing. You might be able to make that argument that in the beginning it wasn't a left-right thing because we didn't know what we were dealing with. But there's absolutely no way to argue that right now, okay, into this, that while these crackdowns are still going on, that this is not a right-left paradigm issue, because it most certainly is a right-left paradigm issue now.
So these Republican governors are left-wingers acting in bad faith would be your contention then?
Well, some of them are what we call rhino Republicans. They're Republicans in name only. And you see oftentimes these people will coalesce around whatever the Democrat majority wants because they want to be seen as more moderate. They want to appeal to a wider demographic. Now, not most of these states that I'm talking about with these heavy crackdowns were not Republican states, just so you know. Let me reiterate that. We're talking about the harsh crackdowns that happened with these stay-at-home orders, these restaurant shutdowns, business shutdowns, things like this, were widely instituted by left-wing governors and left-wing politicians and especially left-wing mayors.
None by Republican governors, though.
I didn't say that there was
Republican.
Okay.
I
didn't say there was none by Republican governors, but most certainly the paradigm there is a left-right paradigm. Even if there was some conservative governors or Republican governors that did push some form of regulation, they were nowhere near as draconian for sure.
Draconian. Wear a mask and shut down restaurants is draconian.
Yes, it's draconian. You can't shut down people's livelihoods. It's unconstitutional and it's un-American and it's immoral. And since we're talking about the moral fabric of society, can you explain to me how it's moral to shut down a person's restaurant in order to save a decimal point fraction of the population? Maybe.
I would tend to agree with you on the point that I don't think we did the thing right. I personally believe if the government's going to mandate anything, if they're going to tell you have to close your business, they should probably be paying you and your employees then. Every other country in the world happened to figure that out.
So that's
because they're mandating you to stay home. But
that's problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem and then we have a reaction and then they create the solution. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Our government created coronavirus?
No, but they created the problem of the economic crackdowns that happened as a result of the coronavirus. Yes, most certainly they
as a result of the coronavirus.
No, correct. Not as a result of the coronavirus. If we had done nothing in regards to the coronavirus, we would have all been fine.
We would have all been fine. That worked out really well for the countries that did nothing.
It would have worked out just fine. If you had the point of the population die, you're talking about between 0.5 and 1%. Yeah, we would have been fine. Almost everybody would have been fine.
Are we taking into account the long-term factors involved with COVID?
Yes,
the long COVID folks, the folks who have lung scarring.
In fact,
ED.
The lung scarring was caused because they put them on these respiratory machines, and the respiratory machines brutalize and they pine cone these people's lungs. The coronavirus doesn't do that. The coronavirus is mild in almost everybody who gets it. It's mild in almost every human being who gets it. And this is worldwide. This is a worldwide thing. People are not dying in the streets from the coronavirus, man. Nowhere.
Could you source where long-term lung problems are not part of coronavirus? Because every piece of information I've ever seen, and I think most of the panel would agree with me.
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say that there wasn't any people who have long-term lung issues from the coronavirus. I said the pine coning of the lung, which was the initial thing that was done that was very problematic, was because they were putting people on the respiratory machines, which the Democrat governors said we didn't have enough of. Once those respiratory machines got into these hospitals, that was one of the first lines of treatment in the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. And that was pine coning people's lungs, pine coning them. And that was one of those situations where the solution again was worse than the problem.
So you're not denying that there are long-term effects of COVID?
Yeah, well, there's long-term effects from any disease. You can get any virus and have long-term health effects from it, including the common flu. There's no disease on the planet that doesn't. That's why they call viruses, they call them viral syndromes, because every virus on the planet, including other coronaviruses, can cause long-term health issues for some individuals. That's not how you regulate society. You don't say because some people have long-term health issues from this we're gonna crack down on everybody. You certainly don't quarantine healthy people. That's never been done, ever. Nowhere have we ever quarantined healthy people.
Can I just ask a quick question? Where, and I'm really trying not to pick sides, but I'm just wondering where in the Constitution it says that we're not allowed to have a shutdown for a pandemic.
It says it in the First Amendment. We have the right to peaceably assemble. We have the right to worship in houses of worship and assemble in houses of worship. Those things were outright outlawed in many states, including Michigan. It's completely and totally draconianly and Orwellianly unconstitutional. It's, in fact, I don't even think anybody can argue that if you tell people they can't go to church, it's unconstitutional.
And remember,
how
Justin, we're waiting till the second part before we interject. So let's not play Captain Save-A-Ho.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. But anyway,
I'm not. I just I think it's
again,
important to build on that.
Again,
okay,
back to Mr. Samsquanch, the First Amendment rights of the people were completely cracked down upon. So they're not really rights if the government can crack down on them. You can't say, hey, you can't go to church when your First Amendment says that you can go to church whenever you want to go to church. Not sometimes, all the time.
I think in the preamble, it also says to promote the general welfare. And I'm pretty sure that
preambles aren't amendments, sir.
And I'm pretty sure that if it was as unconstitutional as you say, they would have been being pretty defeated handily in court, and we would be out walking around. But
they
none
were
of that ever happened.
defeated handily in court. One such example of them being defeated handily in court was right here in Michigan. Right here in Michigan, the restaurant industry got together and launched a class action lawsuit against Gretchen Whitmer and her unconstitutional lockdown of their businesses, and they won easily.
And they won.
Instead,
federal court.
They won. She went instead through the health department at that point and made an executive order, and there was nothing the court could do. Okay, they ruled it was completely and totally unconstitutional. There have been many such rulings, and there's going to be many more. Justice Alito himself said that it's an unbelievable amount of violations to people's rights that have been going on under the guise of the coronavirus. That's a Supreme Court justice who went on record saying that. So yeah, I think it's a big
Right.
One of, but there's only nine, right? There's only nine.
So one of nine's what, 12%, 11%?
Yeah, but that's just the one that went on record. And when a lot of these get to the Supreme Court, which they will, they'll eventually wind their way up there. You'll see the Supreme Court in this case will side with the Constitution and the First Amendment. There's no way that anybody can possibly take the language of the First Amendment when it comes to the freedom to assemble peaceably to worship and say that that's not being violated. I don't even know how a person can make a case for that.
Why can't churches just move online like everything else?
That's not what I'm saying, and you know it. It's totally disingenuous. Is it a violation of the Constitution, or isn't it, to shut a person's place of worship down and tell them they can't assemble in it?
I'm pretty sure if it was against the Constitution, they would have found it so, and we wouldn't have done it. But it was able to be done.
Who's they? Who are these they people you're talking about?
Oh, the governors, everybody. Well, the liberals, of course. That's who you pinned it all on earlier. Even though most of the governors are conservative, we'll just go with the liberals to make this more comfortable. If it was if the libtards hadn't if it was completely unconstitutional to shut everything down, I think they would have been schooled by facts and logics in the court nationwide, and none of this ever would have happened.
Well, they were, Rob.
So to get this right, even though we have a direct correlation between the massive draconian lockdowns being specifically in the liberal states versus the conservative states, you're saying that because there might have been some degree of a governor saying, hey, please don't do this without any force of law, that it's similar in some way? Because it's not similar.
No, I'm saying if it was as rawly unconstitutional as you say it would, people much smarter than us, whose job it is to do these things, would have done it.
What do you mean?
That didn't happen.
Who are these smart people that you're talking about? I don't understand what I don't understand what your case is. You're saying that people would have gone and done what now in liberal and in progressive areas with progressive?
If these rules were as unconstitutional as you say they were, that's literally why we pay taxes and erect courthouses and elect and appoint judges and have attorneys is to suss these things out, and these things would have been sussed out and it wouldn't have happened.
Most of the courts were shut down for months due to the pandemic. Some of these cases are just now winding themselves through the courts, and they haven't been heard in the Supreme Court at all. I don't know how you could possibly make such an absurd case that, oh, these real smart leatherneck pencil necks, they would have already figured out it's not constitutional, because governments do that. They tend to always restrain themselves. They haven't been challenged in a lot of these areas, man. So I don't know where you're coming up. It's
the precipice of your argument earlier was that they were challenged and lost,
Michigan,
but that happened on no sort of big scale.
I gave you an example in Michigan, and I gave you an example of some challenges that have already been won. But we're talking about
one
thousands.
Example.
We're talking about thousands of cases nationwide that are still winding their way through the courts. Saying that really smart people would have already had it resolved is insane. Why didn't really smart people already have the coronavirus taken care of then, man?
We managed to do that at a pretty record pace, to be honest. I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
Why
about with the vaccine.
Go have fucking breakfast in the morning at a restaurant?
That's the real issue. I'm asking. You don't care how many people can get sick, so you can have your ham and cheese omelet. That's freedom. That's how we value freedom, is whether or not we get our Diablo onion with extra hot sauce. Yeah,
that's right. Extra hot sauce. I want extra sausage and bacon with it because I'm a fucking American. My forefathers didn't bleed to death, so that some mamby-pamby progressive could sit there and tell me, well, we have to save grandma. We got to save grandma's life. And then when they rolled out the vaccine, they never even gave it to fucking grandma.
But your forefathers did mask up and stay home for the Spanish flu, so there is that.
What's that?
I said, but your forefathers did mask up and stay home for the Spanish flu, so
did my forefathers make a mandate that healthy people be quarantined during the Spanish flu? Show me where that mandate is, because it doesn't exist.
They didn't quarantine anybody during the Spanish flu?
They didn't quarantine healthy people.
Cedar Rapids, Iowa, they quarantined the whole town. That happened.
Bullshit. If they didn't quarantine healthy people, there was no mandate or force of law. That's an outright absurd lie. It's an absurd lie. Just because you quarantine on a town full of sick people doesn't mean you're quarantining the healthy people. Who brought them all supplies, sir?
Well, of course they brought them supplies. They brought people supplies in China with that draconian lockdown.
No,
you can still get supplies in when people are locked down. Come on.
How did the people get supplies? Their family members still went out and got them?
I believe they were brought in during the Spanish flu pandemic to the quarantine areas. I'm sure by the libtards in the government that want to give everybody everything for free.
So you're saying that the government are the people who brought them supplies in this lockdown area during the Spanish flu? That's your official position on that?
So you're saying that you're not really quarantined if you're getting supplies.
Stop pivoting. You pivot constantly.
I'm not pivoting on anything. I'm trying to nail down your argument.
Your official position or not?
Because I've listened to the last 4 weeks of your content, and I'm not going to do the rapid fire questions thing, man. I'm not pivoting. I'm trying to get you to land on a position.
Okay, here's my position. The lockdowns are completely unconstitutional. You can't tell people that they can't go worship. It's completely unconstitutional. You can't tell them they can't assemble. That's completely unconstitutional. These are things that are enshrined in the very First Amendment of the first 10 in the Bill of Rights. Okay, there's no workaround for that. Saying that because in 1918 there was one town that they quarantined because people were sick, and you're kind of confident that maybe the government brought in supplies, but you're not really sure, isn't really much of an argument, just so you know.
Well, that was a counterpoint to your point of they've never quarantined people before. You had said they never quarantined.
No, I didn't say they never.
I pointed out an instance.
What did I say? Did I say they didn't quarantine people, or did I say they didn't quarantine what? They didn't quarantine healthy people. Healthy people.
So healthy people have never been quarantined before.
Healthy people don't get quarantined during pandemics. No, to my knowledge, it's never happened. I looked. I can't find an instance. I can't find instances of healthy people being quarantined during national pandemics. Not historically anywhere. I've never seen it. I've never even heard of it. I can't find it. And you know why? Because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to quarantine healthy people.
Once again, you call it unconstitutional, and however long it takes for this to wind its way through the courts, since apparently the courts have been shut down since this thing started, and not back open, even though there's been cases heard. When this winds its way through and they decide that this was unconstitutional, then I guess you'll be right in your argument. But as of right now, no, it hasn't happened in any sort of large scale. No federal courts have said, hey, this is unconstitutional.
So to get this right, and that's wrong too, but to get this right, just to make sure I got this right, you need other people to interpret the Constitution for you. You can't do it for yourself.
That's kind of why we put judges in the places we put them, right? I mean, the people aren't just
one more time. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you need other people to interpret the Constitution on your behalf?
We trust our public servants with that. Of course, I've read the Constitution. Of course, I've passed history class.
Okay,
of course, I can interpret it.
So in the First Amendment, does it say people can peaceably assemble and that people can go and worship whenever they want to go and worship?
I don't believe it said verbatim they can go and worship whenever they want to go and worship.
That's the Reader's Digest version.
The answer to your question is no.
Okay, good.
It does not say you can go worship whenever you want to go worship.
Well, I mean, it does. It does, but just because I don't use the exact language, it doesn't mean that's not what it says. That is what it says. It says whenever you want to, the people, and your right to do that will not be abridged, period. Okay, that's what it says. So, but you would know that because you've read it. But you're gonna argue with me because linguistically, I said it in a slightly different way than how it's written, even though you know that's what's said. Because that is what's said. Is that not correct?
No.
Okay.
It does not say you have the right to go worship whenever you want. The Constitution doesn't say that. Objectively, black and white, doesn't say that.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so we're getting into a lot of fact-checking things. I've been putting them on YouTube, just to pop in here. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania have all been ruled unconstitutional. Okay.
By who?
That's
state courts, federal courts, circuit court?
State Supreme Courts.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm talking. So I don't know. I'm going to check the actual United States Supreme Court next. I just typed in shuts downs unconstitutional.
Well, make a note.
I've been right again
for after,
and we're getting a lot of fact checks. Exactly. So again, I'm just letting you know 6 states were the total states that were left open. I've put these comments into the YouTube if anybody wants to pop in and see them. Anyway, continue, guys.
I'm glad.
10% out of 50. I'm good with 90% odds. I'm good with that.
That's fine. Good. We can move on to the next spiritual issue that you have. So what was the next on the list of mine that you might want to challenge?
Legislating morality. I've heard you advocate for legislating specific morality.
Okay. What morality?
So would you? That's I was going to ask you. I'm not here to put words in your mouth. I was going to ask you what you meant by that statement when you made it.
No, no. What specifically did I say you got an issue with?
Exactly that. I believe it was a conversation 3 weeks ago, and you said that you supported legislating morality.
No, I'm sorry. You got to use the exact words. Just using the language that's close isn't good enough because that's probably not what was exactly said. So therefore, that's not what was said, right?
So you don't want to address it. We can move on to the next thing if you'd like.
Well, no, you got to tell me what you want me to address. Legislative
exactly that. Yeah, I'm asking you to expand on that. I'm asking you for your words. You say I need to use the exact words. I'm asking.
I don't know what you're referencing, sir.
Well,
so you have to tell me what you're referencing.
Really quick, Andrew. Just because Rob can't pull out the exact statements, I think you can kind of go through your beliefs and some of the things that you've said,
an excellent argument,
and see where he would.
That would be an excellent thing to do, and I would normally do it. But this gentleman just said that I had to be absolutely linguistically correct on what the exact wording of a constitutional amendment said. Otherwise, it doesn't say that.
Yeah, because there's no difference.
Sorry, man. That's your rules that you put down. So tell me exactly what I said, and then I'll argue against it.
I want the rules.
We have to legislate morality.
We do?
Well, that's what you said.
Those were my exact words?
Pretty sure.
Right. It's pretty sure, but it means the same thing, right? Right. Okay. So I guess we could move on from there.
Yeah, he doesn't. Everybody has like the last month of your content. They can go back and read that. I mean, that's fine.
Everybody has.
I was asking you to expound on that. You said you had a belief that morality needed to be legislated. I said, hey, Andrew, explain that to me, please. You refused to do that. That's fine.
No. What I said was that law, okay, is the legislation of morality. Yes, that's what I said. But if you had the quote, you could have pulled that up. And if I'm wrong about that, you could have really nailed me with it. You should have come with your facts in straight, man.
No. If that's your clarification of that statement, that's fine with me. That's why I asked you for clarification.
Okay, well, that's my clarification.
So I'm going to build on that a little bit and ask you both the question then. Is it morally acceptable for gay couples to be married?
No.
Well, that's
Yes.
a law.
And?
You had, I'm not going to get into a debate with you, but you just said that law is morality. It's based on
No, I
morality.
didn't say that. I said that's not what I said. I didn't say law is morality, did I?
Not those exact words, but you said that, laws are
What-
based
what
on
did I
morality,
say?
right? Isn't that
No,
what
I
you
said
just said?
what law is the legislative body legislating morality. That's what it
Okay,
is.
so then,
That's what it is. Now, not all law, okay?
okay, so only
But
the
most-
laws that you think.
Okay, there's some laws that aren't specifically designed to revolve around moral issues. Okay, but the large ones that you can usually do prison time for are generally moral issues. They're generally can be construed as moral issues, or they can be construed as lawful issues. But they're definitely intertwined. Yes. So what was your issue with me wanting to legislate morality exactly?
Well, once again, apparently I misheard that statement, because you clarified and said that what you had actually said was that your belief was that laws are the legislation of morality, as you've expounded upon it in some cases. I took
And
your statement to believe.
Do you disagree with that?
Actually, no. I think that's pretty safe to say that, especially the way our processes are run through our representative democracy, that the laws are legislated on by our elected representatives, and
Well,
probably reflect the common morality in some way.
Since there's no disagreement and you brought up the point of contention, why don't we just move on?
Yeah. Well, once again, once you clarified, it was fine. Then I apparently misunderstood your statement.
Okay, so back to the debate topic itself, right? Which is the spiritual and moral decay of the United States, wasn't it?
It was the spiritual and existential crisis.
The crisis is facing us.
Yeah.
How we are coming apart at the seams.
So what's spiritual about it? Do you believe in God, sir?
I'm agnostic. I do.
So that's
not.
no. So then no, you don't.
No, that's a yes.
No, it's
or
not.
not a no.
It's not. It's milquetoast fence sitting, just like that other guy. That's all it is. It's
not having an ego big enough to pretend to understand those things.
Maybe there is. Maybe there's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. But here's what I hear when a person says agnostic. No.
That's what you hear.
It's no. You don't believe that there's God. You certainly don't believe that there's a Judeo-Christian God, right?
I grew up Christian, as it is in the Bible. I believe a lot of the values are important, but no, I don't believe it's to be taken literally.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on from there, why would you bring up something about spiritual crisis? So what is the spirit exactly?
So there's no other definition of spirituality besides a Christian one.
Give it to me.
There's no spirituality in helping people and being a good steward in your community.
Are you going to give me the definition?
I am.
Of spirituality?
I am right now. Are you saying I believe there is spirituality in all of that?
Well, what is it then?
I believe there's spirituality in the Buddhist tradition and any tradition that you choose to follow.
Okay,
spirituality is your own to hold in the way you hold it. You want me to define it as it either is the Christian God or it isn't, and I'm not.
No, I don't want you to define it that way. I'm asking you from your perspective. If you're saying that there's a spiritual crisis, what is the spirit that you're talking about?
The spirit that holds us together, the idea of the commons, the idea of working towards a common goal and doing well for our neighbors, being good.
Talking about an actual thing that exists inside of a person that is detached and otherworldly, perhaps. That's not the definition of spiritualism that you're talking about. So
apparently not.
You're talking about more of like a new agey type spiritualism.
Sure.
Okay.
We could go with that.
I'm just trying to get the definitions correct. So what about the new agey spiritualism that you're talking about is decaying?
I just said that.
Well, what about it is decaying specifically?
Like I said, our country is literally ripping apart at the seams. It is obviously a decay in the American spirit.
But what inside? So, but you're saying there is nothing inside, right? There is no actual soul. There is no actual spirit. We're just talking about like philosophically, the spirit. I don't.
Sure.
Okay. So we're going to go with a philosophical spirit. So philosophically, the philosophical spirit of the ties that bind us all together is eroding.
Correct.
Okay. And what's causing the erosion?
I think a variety of things. I think it's harder now to operate. You talked about, I thought it was interesting that you talked about the nuclear family. In that, do you mean traditional family, mother, father, 2.5 kids, picket fence?
Well,
right?
No, the 2.5 kids is new.
The 2.5 kids is new?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
but
it's new.
You're talking about a vision of Rockwell's America, though, right? Like when you
I'm
talk about the family.
I'm not talking about a vision of Rockwell's America. I'm talking about a vision that we've gone with for 10,000 years because it's worked. Worldwide it's worked.
The definitions have shifted over the course of time, though. It used to be grandparents living in a house with family, extended family, everyone else.
That's now the way it is right now.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Why don't you check and see how often kids move out of their houses now? Usually takes them till they're about 25 or 30, or how many elderly people live with their children. Not much has changed, man.
Quite a bit's changed as far as the meaning of that.
As far as the nuclear family goes, it's always been basically the same thing. Man meets girl, right? Man loves girl, or vice versa, whatever. They breed. They usually had a hell of a lot more than 2.5 children. In fact, most of the time, most of their kids would die during childbirth or due to labor complications. So women got pregnant an awful lot. It was very important that the nuclear dynamic stayed together. It was always good for everybody historically everywhere it was tried.
Right, but those definitions have shifted over the years. I mean,
okay, fine. A distinction without merit. They've slightly shifted from what to what?
Right. Well, like I was saying, I mean, there's whole fields of study on this, man. Have you ever taken sociology? These things have shifted. It used to be a man, a woman, the kids, the apprentice, the grandma, the grandpa living there. It has not always been, man, woman fall in love, have their kids, and that's it.
Yeah, it pretty much has always over time. It pretty much has always been that way everywhere. Throughout all of history.
I mean, in Greek society, I mean, we all know what happened in Greek society.
What happened in Greek society?
That wasn't traditional family either.
It was still, people got married and had children. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, people are still getting married and having children.
Well, right, I understand, but even in that dynamic, in the Greek dynamic,
they will for always.
Okay, but even in the Greek dynamic, there was a nuclear family. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm saying that the definition has shifted. It's not a strict definition like you're trying to make it out to be.
It's I think it pretty much is. I don't understand what has changed exactly. I just told you grandparents still live in the home. We're still very tribal. Most people still live in their same hometowns. What has changed? I don't understand what's changed in the definitions. You say, well, don't you know anything about sociology? Okay, so here you got the floor. Tell me what's changed exactly.
I already went over that.
No,
are you going to ask me to repeat myself? That the dynamics and the living conditions have changed. When it used to be, when you used to have flop houses with several families living in a house, that was normal. These things have changed over the course of time. Our living conditions have changed everywhere in the world.
No,
if you look back at the tenements in New York, back in the early founding of our country, there were several families that lived in homes.
Several families is not normal. There's several families is not a normalcy. I'm asking how the normalcy has changed from the dynamic of one man, one woman, and then children. Well, how's that changed, man?
Over time, it has. I've just explained that to you several times. Just because you refuse to accept it, just because you refuse to accept the example
is, hey, there's some flop houses in New York. I don't even fucking understand what you're talking about. Like, what are you talking about? How has the definition change of what makes up a family?
Just because you don't, I said the living conditions have changed. Living conditions.
The living conditions have changed. What the fuck does that have to do with the nuclear family? I don't understand. What does that have to do with the nuclear family?
I'm sorry you don't understand. I've broke it down as easily as I can for you.
All right. Okay. The living conditions have changed from the nuclear family. So anyway, back to it then, I guess. What's the overarching point? Gays should get married, right? That's where you're going with it? Gays are great.
Well, that wasn't really where I was going with it. I was going with that we need to suss out as a society what we're going to do to move forward. And that if we don't do that, we're stuck with a level of anger and hate that's impossible to reconcile with, as we've seen over the course of the last month.
There's no
change.
And
if we're going to push civil society forward in a way that makes the country and the planet better for generations to come, we're going to have to reconcile with this.
Ashley Horton families still live multiple generations together. Anyway, keep going.
I just made my point.
Okay, so what do you want to do about it, man?
Well, I think even far right forces, I mean, even Tucker Carlson to a degree agrees that you're going to have to start doing a little bit more to take care of people's basic needs.
Look, nobody cares what the corporate media says. 71%, there's a poll today, 71% of Republicans agree with what happened at Capitol Hill. 71%, and 40% of Democrats think we're heading towards civil war.
Where are you pulling your stats from?
Just that was, I believe, from the New York Post. Okay. And I'm sorry, let me phrase it correctly. It was 71% of Republicans said we're heading for civil war, and 40% of Democrats did too. Okay, but here's the problem you have. Trump's approval rating is almost at a historic high. Yeah, almost at a historic high. We don't want to reconcile with liberals. Why would we want to reconcile with you? What do you bring to the table for conservatives exactly?
What do conservatives bring to the table that anybody else is going to want to live with?
There's nothing conservatives can bring liberals, because liberals don't want wholesome moral value structures. So why don't we just divide?
How do you suggest doing that? I mean, I'm fine with the idea. We'll take California, the 6th largest economy in the world. You guys can have fun.
Well, and there's no avoiding that, right? You should take California, right? Mexico will take California from you in 20 years, but that's fine. Go ahead, take Mexico. Right, you're going to have to leave one of the coastal cities open, okay, for us, and that's probably about it. Some major metropolitan on either the east or the west. We have
no coastal areas. It's war. No coastal cities. It's war. You can have what you have, right? That's the way this works out, right?
Okay, if you wanted to play it that way, if you were going to negotiate, good luck. That's not how you divide something up to avoid war, which is what we're talking about doing. If you want to go to war with the other half of the country and the victor keeps the spoils, I'm absolutely fine with that and think it's a grand idea. Grand idea.
Somebody in the comments just said they read 42% of Republicans agreed with what happened at the Capitol, not 70%.
Nice. Well, and I have 71 right here. I sent that to Justin. Correct, but it's Washington Examiner. So, of course, we'll shit on the source. I'm going to get who actually did the poll. I will be back because
that's a good idea. Who actually?
I certainly will. But again, it is 71. I sent it to Justin. I will post it in the YouTube comments. Right now, be back.
These comments shouldn't be rolling until after we get through the debate portion of this, because they're offering a distraction that this man can watch to pivot away from what we're debating about.
No, I'm fine with what we're talking about. I haven't pivoted once. You haven't been okay with my explanations. That doesn't mean. I haven't given them.
I can't get you to pin down on any position at all. You're like water. You just flow right away. It's ridiculous. Now, why did you bring up the nuclear family?
I didn't bring up the nuclear family. You brought up the nuclear
you did.
family.
You brought it up, sir. When you go back through this, you brought that up as an example to me of what I was talking about.
Really I asked about traditional family, and you said the nuclear family. I was more talking about your wholesome moral values there.
Okay,
the term nuclear family hasn't been around forever. I don't know about the definition of family, but the term nuclear family was coined in the 1920s.
You're all right, but it was coined in the 1920s as a framework for what the current dynamic was for the best situation going on in the United States. I only use it as a reference point, okay, for explaining how societies generally tend to work. Okay, it doesn't mean I'm saying that the actual nuclear family, as it was coined,
there were societies though where there would be. I mean, look at Mongolia, for example, where if you were a strong like general in the army there, you'd have multiple wives.
Yeah, that's always been the case too. Powerful men have always had harems, and they've always had multiple wives, and they've always had this kind of thing. Okay,
I'll say that.
I don't know what your point is here. I don't know what the point
of it is.
What are you talking about with the fabric, the spirit, the philosophical spirit of our country is eroding, right?
I've already expounded on that to the point where there are folks like you saying we should just divide the thing up.
Right.
Done. I want nothing to do with it.
I agree. I think that's absolutely the best thing that we could possibly do. I've been trying to talk to liberals about this for years, and now it's gotten to the point where I'm talking to them for weeks on these live streams, trying to explain what's going to happen. Then it happens. And now you guys want to come to the table and divide it up. The political will has been there for months and months and months.
I don't
Why
believe
isn't
in
the
dividing it up.
conversation being shifted towards giving a portion of the United States to people who are on the right wing, and people who are on the left wing can have another portion of the United States? Otherwise, we're going to have full out conflict, because that's where we're at.
You guys, okay, so we need to close this topic down and move on to the next. But since we are streaming in both YouTube and Facebook, I feel like maybe we should have the comments. I'll try to not pull up some of the more ones that'll help him out in the debates. But I think for both YouTube and Facebook to be able to interact a little bit, it might be good to pull up the comments. But it's up to you guys. But we should probably move on to the next topic.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for talking about that, guys. So the next topic, it's going to be definitely be controversial. This is Andrew's topic. It's rape liars and their motivation. And Andrew, if you could just discuss that a little bit before you guys start talking about it. I think, just give Rob a little bit of context on where you stand on it.
One of the things that is eroding the philosophical, spiritual binds of the United States is the Me Too movement. It's a prime example of a massive erosion. What's happened is the expectation has become that women are instantaneously believed on any sexual allegation that they have. And what I say is that what should happen is what happens with every other crime that's committed, where nobody's instantly believed, and that instead investigations happen so that you can determine who's at fault for what. And the reason that I think that women shouldn't instantly be believed is because women notoriously, because they're not the stronger sex, they can't rely on the use of force instantaneously to solve problems like men tend to be able to do, right? If we're in a situation where, hey, we absolutely cannot find conflict resolution, men always have the nuclear option of just pounding the shit out of each other. And it seems to work fairly well. That type of recourse doesn't exist with women, so they tend to use other machinations. Sexual machinations and manipulations are often the order of the day. It's just part of the social sexual hierarchy. So I don't understand why we're driving towards a believe all women at all times movement exactly. And I think that that's a massive erosion to tie into your first topic of American society.
I completely disagree with the whole second part of that. As far as women often use manipulative tactics, I disagree with that. That hasn't been my experience. That hasn't been. I never said I was a sociology
I'm sorry.
major.
I thought you studied
sociology. I literally said there's fields of study about this very topic.
Have you ever studied any of this?
Absolutely. Now, I do agree on your first point, though, that when there is an allegation, it should be investigated as thoroughly as possible.
Okay, that was like a side note of resolving it. But why should women be instantly believed?
I just said that I believe we should investigate these claims.
Yeah, I know what you said. They should be investigated. Why should women be instant? What the Me Too demand was that before an investigation had ever even occurred, the woman's instantly believed.
I did not get that out of the Me Too movement. What I got out of the Me Too movement was women asking to have a voice in all of the contexts they live in, where they're sexually harassed and subject to to sexual harassment. Now, where I said I do agree with you is that we should not instantly, based on an allegation. So for instance, we should thoroughly investigate.
If date rape happens on a campus, like what so famously happened with Mattress Girl, where she claimed she was raped, and later on, we find out that not only was she not raped, but she made the entire thing up, and it destroyed the gentleman's life. It destroyed the gentleman's life who she made the allegations against. He got thrown out of school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, what recourse should happen to the woman?
I absolutely. If you file, there's civil recourse for the man to take. He can file all sorts of lawsuits. There's criminal in almost every criminal code. There's filing a false report and things of that nature. There's absolutely recourse that can be taken. And
nothing happened to her.
That's unfortunate. He had a right to his recourse.
He filed a complaint. He filed a complaint for defamation. What about all the time that he lost and everything else from such a complaint? What happens with the ideology of just believe us and you say that women aren't the sex that use machinations and manipulation to get what they want.
Men do it too. Come on.
And of course they do. I'm not disputing that they do. I'm saying that women do it far more because they don't have use of force options available to them like men do. Are you disputing that that's true?
I don't say they do it more. I think both sexes are equally guilty of such
Well,
things.
then you need to go back and look at sociology some more, because this has been very, very widely studied on a broad range. Okay.
Can you point to any studies or anybody by who that I could research this further and prove you right?
I promise you that probably by the time this show is done, that research will be available, because it's being researched right now by Todd. I can guarantee it. Okay. He will pull those studies up and put them in your hands. But I'm telling you right now that it's true. And by the way, you don't need a study to tell you things that are obvious. They're obvious. It's far easier for men to make long-lasting relationships and friendships with other men than it is for women and women. It's far easier for men to do a lot of things than it is for women to do. And often it's because we have the use of force option at our disposal. That should be totally obvious to everybody without a study. I don't know why you would need a study to tell you something.
It's easier to maintain long-term friendships because we have the use of force option.
Correct. That's correct.
So we're friends with who we're friends with because we have the ability to beat the shit out of each other?
No. Well, in a way, yeah. It's the cowboy mentality, right? Everybody tips their hat when everybody's armed because nobody wants to get shot. And yes, that's been widely studied also. Okay. And men tend to make these longer lasting friendships and things like this simply because of the fact that the use of force option is there. And in an honor-based society, especially, it's very helpful in that way. Women don't have those tools generally at their disposal. So they have to use other tools that are at their disposal to get the things that they want because force isn't readily available. And again, that's obvious to every human being on the planet. I don't know how that could really be argued.
That we're friends with people because we can beat them up.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You're using an oversimplification, okay, to demonize something that's apparent and obvious. Okay.
You said your words. You said we have an easier time maintaining lasting friendships.
Yes.
Because use of force is on the table.
Well, that's one of the reasons. Yes. And I would say it's even a more primary reason. Yes. The consequences and repercussions that come from betraying friendships from men to men are much less subtle than they are for women. That's the truth. I don't know what else to tell you.
So we stay.
Your friend. Have you ever got pissed at your friend and hit him?
No.
Never?
No.
Have you ever seen men do that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, you have. You seen women do that much?
I have.
I have in totally equal amounts too, because I'm a progressive and I live in fucking not reality land. No, they don't do it much.
Did I say that? You asked if I had seen it. I said yes. What was the rest of that?
Okay, do you see it in equal amounts?
Are you in the business of arguing with yourself, Andrew?
Sometimes.
Because it sounds to me that's what you're doing.
I'll pose the question to you: do you see it in equal amounts?
Throughout my lifetime, probably not. I've seen a lot more. I've seen more men fight than women. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You've seen more men fight than women. Okay. There's a reason, and so you would say, just using your own powers of observation, then the use of force is more readily available to men generally than it is to women, right?
I don't think it's more readily available. I think force is more used by men. I think it's readily available to anyone.
Okay, let me rephrase that: they more readily use it as an option to.
I just said that. I literally just said that.
Right. So if they're more ready to use it as an option to settle a dispute than women are, then it should clearly and be obvious to you that women will use different forces that they have that men do not to settle disputes. Would you agree that that's true?
That women more often choose not to use violence to settle a dispute?
No, that's not what I said. I said that they have other tools that they use to settle disputes
instead of violence. Yeah, that's fine.
Rather than readily going towards force.
Sure, they use other tools.
Okay, they use other tools. Yeah. And what do you think those other tools are? From your own observational perspective, what do you think those tools are?
I don't know. To me.
I don't know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll wait for you, man. You
I'm
done?
waiting. I'm done.
You done?
I'm done.
Okay, cool. It seems to me that women seem to conversate more about their issues, talk it out, or just cancel each other out of their lives as opposed to throw rights and lefts.
Oh, so you're saying that women are more rational and reasonable?
Never said that.
Okay, well then why are they more inclined to discuss things in a civilized manner to get them resolved than men are?
Because they're more inclined to use other tools than violence.
Oh, right. They're more inclined to use other tools than violence, but you're saying that the tools that they use are the logical tools? They're using logical tools? You don't
I'm
think
not
that
saying in every case, man. Come
okay,
on.
right. So again, the tools that are readily available to women, okay, are sex is a large tool that women use to resolve issues, and manipulation is the other large tool that women use to resolve issues. And women are the most likely to agree with that statement, even if you don't. Now, that also you'll find there's psychological experiments done to prove that that's true. Okay, and you can read a lot of Jordan B. Peterson's work on this subject, and he gets into it too. Now, you may not consider him an authority, and I don't. Okay, but on this particular case, he's right. He is right, and it should be obvious. So the damage that Me Too does by signaling that women are somehow more virtuous than men and should instantaneously be believed when they're the gender that seems to be the most inclined through actionable study that we have to manipulate to get to their own ends.
I agreed with you on the first point, so I'm wondering if you feel that some sort of got you. I said that we need to investigate these things.
Okay, yeah, I know, but we're still talking about you saying that the tools that women have is logic and reason, and that those are the other.
Did I say that? Did I say that women?
You said that women resolve their issues by talking them out instead of using force.
But more often than not, yeah.
Right, but that's not
my observation.
True. It's just so you know. And no, I don't believe you. I think you're lying. I don't think that you think that women are less likely to be manipulative than men. I think that you know that they're more likely to be manipulative than men are.
And that's wrong, then.
By the way, that is from an evolution standpoint. If you're an evolution guy, would make total sense. It would make total and complete sense. Right. And it's obvious to everybody except you. And male feminists are this way and leftists are this way. They never want to admit the truth. It's crazy. Crazy. Women don't use manipulation any more than men do. They use it exactly equally. It's exactly equal across the board. They both just use manipulation equally. But men are more inclined to use force and women are more inclined to talk things out, though. It's just bizarre, man. You know,
you're the one who said men were more inclined to use force. That's your definition.
With it.
And now you're railing against it.
With it, and then
with your point,
it by saying
now you're railing against your own point.
Not only did you agree with it, but you observed that you yourself have seen that more. It's crazy to me. You're railing against your point, not against.
And now you're railing against your own point. You have now gone on a 5-minute rant about how men are more likely to use force after you're the one who brought up men are more likely to use force. Explain that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. They're more likely to use force. Because they're more likely to use force, women are more likely to use subtle machinations to get their way. That's my point. You still won't address it. I don't know why you want to address my point.
I did address your point. I agreed with your point, and then I said that I don't believe that women are any more likely to manipulate than men.
You took a portion, you took one part of what I said and say, well, I agree with that. And then you won't even qualify the rest of it. It's crazy to me.
I did qualify the rest of it.
Where did I not? Let me just ask you something directly, and it's not a loaded question. In your opinion, are women more likely to manipulate to get the things that they want than men are?
Not in my experience.
Okay. So that's your opinion. That's all I wanted the whole time. If that's not your opinion,
I gave it to you in the beginning. Why did you spend 20 minutes yelling if that's all you wanted? Was it just for the performance of yelling?
Because where we've ended up here is I continuously tell you that the use of force that's done by men versus the manipulations that are done by women and the subtleties that women use to manipulate is the exact reason that the Me Too movement is having such a fucking hard time. Men don't believe that women are instantly in the right when they make an accusation or they make an allegation of any type of sexual assault. Okay? They just don't believe it. So a lot of them have instituted what's called the Pence rule, right? And Mike Pence was harassed for this forever and ever and ever, that he had the Pence rule. And the Pence rule was simply, hey, I'm not going to meet with women in a professional setting, okay, or maybe even in an unprofessional setting, without bringing my wife with me or having a witness there so that I can't be accused of any type of sexual impropriety. Okay. The reason that men are terrified of that happening is because they know that women tend to use a more seductive nature and manipulation as leverage to get the things they want versus force. Now, I would think that that would be pretty much obvious to everybody, but it doesn't seem like it's very obvious to you.
It's not obvious to me. I've seen both sexes be equally as manipulative.
And so you think that that from a psychological standpoint, using scientific methodology, that they find the same things to be true as that opinion?
Do you have the methodology in front of you?
I can produce it, yes, but I'm just asking you straight out if you think that that's if you think.
And is that going to be Jordan P. Peterson's methodology?
It won't be.
Correct?
It won't be. But let me ask you again. Right? Because I would like for you to actually take a position on something at some point.
I have taken a position on everything. You haven't liked the answers.
If the science proves that that's true, right? Will you correct yourself publicly?
And say that psychological studies show that women are more manipulative than men? Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm
and
done with
Rob,
that.
is that the study you want? Because listen, there's a lot of data on this. So again, what am I looking at, Rob? What study? And I'm posting them on the YouTube. But what study specifically do you want me to look for?
Just look up if women have been found to be more manipulative than men are.
Fine. And then Rob, what did you want me to look for?
That's it. I said if you could find research that points to that, I'd be happy to look at it.
And it may take me a little bit. My dog's barking. All right, I'll be back. Bye.
But just so you know, right, that's not going to be widely disputed by almost anybody you talk. You could just ask men and women on the street, and I bet you that 70 to 80%, maybe even 90%, would instantly say yes, because it's pretty obvious and apparent to everybody except you, Mr. Samsquanch.
I'll bet you 80 or 90% would say no, and that's pretty obvious and apparent to everybody but you, Andy.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, that was one facet of why the Me Too movement was so problematic. Okay, just one. The second one is that the Me Too movement makes demands of equality that they really don't deserve. They really don't deserve the demands for the equal. 1 second, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to take this second. I'm going to run in real quick. Give me just a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. One thing, while Rob runs to go do whatever he's doing, I think this is a good, opportunity for us to kind of talk about it briefly. One thing that I do want to say that was good about the Me Too movement was you have people that are predators and they're being exposed, and I don't see how that would ever be a bad thing.
Well, okay.
So you're talking about like Epstein?
Epstein.
Why did the media sit on those stories forever?
I don't care. What
No, I care. Suddenly it's so important that you take down Epstein when they had the evidence forever, and there was literally exposés ready to go that were shut down.
That was for Harvey Weinstein, I think.
Weinstein got taken down.
No, for Epstein.
No, Epstein.
Epstein.
It was the blonde. It was the blonde on ABC. Amy Robach.
She had the exposé ready.
She's caught
and they shut it down.
Actually,
you're talking about Project Veritas. Yeah.
Okay, well, she's on camera saying that I had it all. So again, you listen. I got a lot of sauce. You guys have given me fucking 2 pages in the notebook. So again, I'm trying to provide everything. Justin, I am emailing to you. I'm copying the links into the thing. I am grabbing the top things off DuckDuckGo. I am not cherry picking this information. Anybody can peep it. Like I said.
Okay.
So we will fact check.
I want to ask
everything
Andrew a question
privately.
Yeah.
Do you automatically believe a man when he tells you something, or
no?
Okay, so then, all right. Well, I guess that's fair, but like, you know, a lot of times investigations are done, but when you have multiple people coming forward, I think it kind of corroborates the story. And that's a lot of what you saw with the Me Too movement. But I'll let you guys continue.
I believe where we left off was you had said women don't deserve the equal rights they're asking for.
No, it's good, man. We're done with the topic. I mean, I'm done with
Okay.
it. If you got something else that you want to,
You guys wanna
want to
go
do on it.
the panel portion, we could close this out and
Sure.
okay. So why don't I
Do
do
it.
that? Just
Yeah, let's get to the panel. So I'm just looking through some of my notes. You guys can talk about it, and then I'll chime in.
we got to close this and start a new one.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we'll be right back.
I bet those glasses make you see better.